Hello again. I would just like to talk about my very recent fixed gear addiction. Um, I've always been a fan of fixed gear bikes, but I've never really ridden one myself until very recently. But for years I've been watching YouTube videos of Patrick Seabass, where he was like riding this fixed gear up mountains in routes of Tour de France, and I've also been watching Zach Gallardo um, and other fixed gear riders. Really, some documentary of bike messengers, and of course, I've watched the movie Premium Rush, and um, I really find it fun. And I thought to myself, oh, one day I'm gonna have one. And around February of this year, that was the first time that I bought myself a fixed gear bike. It was a second-hand bike, and unfortunately, February was also the month where Brisbane had a massive flooding. So after I bought the fixed gear bike, I couldn't even ride it. So I was just sitting there for like more than 2 weeks, and I couldn't ride it. It wasn't until about March that I started getting serious with fixed gear bikes. And yeah, let me tell you about my journey. This is my single speed bike, my fixed gear bike. It's a Kona Paddy Wagon. It's a 53 cm, which is let's have a look at the components. So the original owner replaced the brakes and the caliper as well. That's a Campagnolo. I really like the lugged fork on this one. I've also recently replaced the headset with FSA MX. I've changed several things on this one. It used to have the original wheel used to be yellow to match the yellow highlights on the frame, but this is a wheel that's from Single Speed Cycles in Australia. It's a 40 mil deep, 32 spokes, and so that's the same one there. Now I've just recently changed my crank set, my chain ring to a 47. It's a BCD 130. Look, Single Speed Cycles, I've also changed the crank. It's a 170 mil crank, and then at the back is a 17 tooth fixed gear. Yep, that's the one that costs. That's a freewheel. So that's Single Speed Cycles. I used to have a double-sided pedal in here, but now I've changed it to a flat on top, and then it's mountain bike clips in there. Yeah, that's my single speed bike. It's very aggressive. Like this, the drop from the saddle to the handlebar is like 100 mils, which is very racy. That saddle is from Single Speed Cycles as well. I really like the shape and the feel. So yeah, that's my single speed bike. I really like it. So the first time I rode my fixed gear bike, it was just around the complex where I lived, and just getting it rolling was a bit awkward for me, because I always use my right foot to start the bike, but then if the crank is kind of behind me, then I'm like, how am I gonna do this, you know? So I had to teach myself how to start the bike using my left foot. And when you get started, I mean, stopping was also a problem, because sometimes when you stop, I need to like keep my right foot on the pedal. That's what I always do with my geared bikes. I keep my right foot on the pedal and then let go of the left foot. But then if the crank is like somewhere behind me, then stopping was really awkward. Good thing that my fixed gear bike has both front and rear brakes. Yes, I use brakes. I think that having brakeless bikes is crazy. It looks cool, but yeah, I don't want to die, so that's why I have both front and rear brakes. Yeah, call me whatever you want, but I'm happy with having brakes. Anyway, so yeah, for 2 weeks I was just going around the complex and I didn't ride anything but that fixed gear bike. My geared bikes were just there. I didn't use them, so just fixed gear for straight 2 weeks. And then one day I decided, okay, I'll just go for it. I went for my first real fixed gear ride. So I did like 30 kilometers. Was it 30? Not even 30. But yeah, I actually went outside on the road. And the funny thing is that I used flat pedals. I didn't want to be clipped in, like I don't want to crash. So just a few meters from my house there was this a big downhill. It's like 8% at its steepest. So the bike was hurling down like 40 k's an hour and I almost crashed because I was spinning really fast and my foot lost the pedals and they were just dangling. Good thing I had a brake. But even then I almost crashed and that really scared me. But I kept going. I finished the ride and for me that was an eye-opener, and that's when I realized, yep, I needed my foot to be clipped in. And so I attached mountain bike pedals on my fixed gear bike, like so that I could clip in. By the way, I use mountain bike shoes and mountain bike pedals in my road bikes, so I'm pretty familiar with using cleats. And yeah, that was my first encounter and my first real fixed gear ride. So yeah, a week later, I I got crazy and I decided to climb Mount Kutha. The front of Mount Kutha averages close to 8%, and it's about 2.6 kilometers. In its steepest, it's about 13%, and my god, that hurt. Climbing it in a fixed gear was just, yeah, took me a very long time, but I got there without without my any of my foot touching the ground. So I actually finished the climb, but it hurt a lot. And on the way down it was so scary because my my cadence was like 150, something like that. Good thing I got brakes, so I had to hold on to my brakes. I was dragging it the whole time because my legs couldn't keep up with the spinning pedals. But yeah, needless to say, I finished that climb, and then a week later my mates invited me to go for a Mount Kutha climb, and they told me, oh, we got some beginners here who wanted to climb Mount Kutha. And so I assumed that they were going the front route, but they actually intended to climb the back of Mount Kutha, which is even steeper. The back of Mount Kutha averages 9% for 2.2 kilometers. And oh my god, my average cadence for the entire climb was only 20 RPM. 20 RPM for 18 minutes. 20 RPM, average of 20 RPM for 18 minutes. I almost died, and it was so funny because I was having problems, climbing, so I decided to wave through it, but my gear was so big that it was essentially one pedal stroke to the right and then one pedal stroke to the left, and I was like, oh, this is not gonna work. So I just climbed it like straight on. It was, I would say, the most painful climb I've ever done. And the thing is, at the top of Mount Kutai, there's just lots of undulations of more than 10%, 11% ramps. And then I descended on the front, and again, I was like 150 RPM going downhill. And then after that, I continued the ride. We did the river loop, so I was riding with my mates who were on their geared bikes, and I was in this fixie just trying to keep up with them. But yeah, it was fun. So that was my second real encounter with a fixed gear bike, climbing stupid 9% um, hill with a maximum gradient of like 13%. It hurt. And my fixed gear addiction just kept going. I decided to ride 150 kilometers from my house to Redcliffe and back. And yeah, the first time I attempted it, I broke a spoke. So yeah, that was a failure. So I did another attempt. Yeah, I finished 150 kilometers on a fixed gear bike, and because I'm already in keto, I didn't even have to eat. And then I decided to do something even crazier. I did 163 kilometers on my fixed gear bike, going through Ipswich, and then Rosewood, up Mount Walker, and then down to like Harrisville. So yeah, that ride was about 1700 meters of elevation gain, 163 kilometers, and yeah, I didn't eat. That was fun. And the other crazy ride that I just did was like 2 weeks ago. I joined a Grand Fondo. It's called a Brisbane to Bay. It's a Brisbane to Bay ride. This is just 130 kilometers with more than about maybe 7,000 riders. And that's when I decided to change my pedal from a double-sided mountain bike to one that's got flat pedals on one side and then clips on the other side, because when you're starting, when there's like more than 5,000 riders on the starting line, I don't want to be, you can't move fast. It's like stop and go. And I didn't want to be clipped in. And, like if I fail to unclip and then the pedal is in the wrong position, then I might fall off and then essentially like wipe out an entire group, like bring down the entire group with me. I didn't want that to happen. That's why I changed my pedals. But yeah, the ride itself is 130 kilometers, but I decided to ride from home, so the entire ride was 173, more than 173 kilometers, and 2,000 meters of elevation gain. The hills were so steep, like more than 10%, and that day hurt. That day hurt, but I had a lot of fun, and yeah. So, what do I like about fixed gear bikes? Number one, because it feels like I have complete control of the bike. When I'm riding a fixed gear bike, it's like pushing a wheelbarrow. When you're pushing a wheelbarrow, when you walk fast and the wheelbarrow goes fast. When you stop, the wheelbarrow stops. It's the same with a fixed gear bike. If I pedal fast, then it goes fast. If I slow down, then it would also slow down, right? It's like having complete control of my bike. Unlike my geared bikes, it's like walking a dog. Like sometimes the dog is behind you, right? So that's the equivalent of which is when you're in a very low gear, like you're pedaling, but then the bike doesn't seem to move. Or sometimes the dog is like walking beside you, and sometimes the dog is right in front of you. You essentially don't have control of the dog. Geared bikes are like that. Like you stop pedaling and the bike keeps going, so you're now forced to grab onto your brakes. With fixed gear bikes, you have complete control. So that's one thing I really like with fixed gear bikes. The other thing I like with fixed gear bikes is that I noticed that on gentle climbs like 3% or anything 5% and shallower, fixed gear bikes are actually really fun to climb because the momentum is helping your leg move past the dead spot. So the bike is actually helping you climb. So anything 5% or below, I really like climbing with fixed gear bikes. When it goes about 8%, you start to feel it, like you don't want it. And then when it gets to like 10%, it's just pure pain for me. But yeah, anything 5% and below, I really like climbing with a fixed gear bike because it kind of, it's like it's helping the rider, it's helping me climb the hill. And what I also noticed with fixed gear bikes is that it's less vulnerable to headwinds. Like if there's a headwind, with my geared bikes, I feel like it's a struggle, but with my fixed gear bike, it seems easier. Like on this Breezy to Bay ride, it was so windy, like 25 k's to 30 k an hour headwinds, and I was going steady between like 29 kilometers per hour to 31 kilometers per hour, and I could actually find other geared riders like drafting behind me. I'm like, you guys have got the gears, you should be in front. But no, I was in front and they were drafting behind me. I don't know why fixed gear seems easier on the headwind, but for me, I think it's because it's similar to a gentle climb. Like, think about this: for every 10 kilometer per hour headwind, it's essentially like a 1% climb. So on that day, there's like 30 kilometer per hour headwind, so it's really like climbing 3% even on the flats. And like I've said, when you're climbing gentle climbs, gentle gradients, the fixed gear bike is actually helping you go over the dead spot. So I think that's the explanation why when you're going against a headwind, fixed gear bikes are actually easier to ride because the bike is essentially helping you move. Now they say that riding fixed gear would improve your pedaling technique. I find this to be false. Well, in my case, I didn't find it as something that improved my pedaling technique. Now, see, like as I've mentioned, fixed gear is actually helping you go over the dead spot because of the momentum. So I noticed that after riding my fixed gear for weeks, like exclusively fixed gear for weeks, when I switch over to my geared bikes, I was looking for that feedback from the bike. So I pedal, so like I start. Okay, there's pressure because you're from stop. Your first pedal stroke gets the bike moving, but really the second pedal stroke, it feels so weird because the bike is now moving. Your second pedal stroke is actually lighter than the first pedal stroke, and my legs were waiting for that feedback from my geared bike to actually move it over. I was expecting that the pedal stroke felt the first pedal stroke and the second pedal stroke would feel the same or very similar. It wasn't like that with geared bikes. I'm like, first pedal stroke is hard, and then the second pedal stroke is so much lighter that I end up like pedaling in squares. So in my experience, riding fixed geared bikes would actually make your pedaling technique on geared bikes so much worse. So yeah, it's not true for me. So yeah, it's just been a few months that I've been into this fixed gear riding, and I'm enjoying it so much that honestly I would prefer riding my fixed gear bike over my geared bikes. Yeah, like if I'm just riding by myself, I would always pick the fixed gear bike. And the only reason I would ride geared bikes now is that, well, I'm riding with a fast group and I need to keep up with them, or I'm climbing mountains because I also really love climbing mountains. I'm a mountain goat by heart. So those are the only instances that I would ride my geared bikes. Any other day, I would not prefer riding my fixed gear. Yeah, that's my addiction, and I'm liking it. I guess that's why it's called an addiction. Yeah, that's been my journey so far, and I'm looking forward to my first 200 kilometers with a fixed gear bike, and maybe later on progress to 300 kilometers without eating, by the way. Keto for the win. Yeah, I'll keep updating my YouTube channel of my progress, and yeah, see you again next time. Thank you.